Bizarre Brain Comics.
Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I'm Gary, your host. And this is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. And this time, I want to take a look back to late 60s. And we're going to take a look at this. If I can get the glare off there. This is Captain Action. This is the Captain Action collection, reprinting the original 5-issue run of Captain Action from DC Comics. And you might say, who the heck is Captain Action? Well, it's a toy, it's an action figure. And they got the license for the character. And when I was a kid, I never had Captain Action, but I did have an Action Boy figure. And I do have 2 Captain Action figures now. They were about 20-some years ago. They were reissued. And one is in Captain Action in the costume of Flash Gordon. And the other is the villain, Dr. Evil, who is in the costume of Ming the Merciless. And that'll make sense in a minute. Okay. Captain Action is an action figure toy created in 1966. And in playing with the figure, one could use him as Captain Action in this costume, or with costume and mask accessories. He could be a host of other characters such as Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Flash Gordon, Sergeant Fury, among others. And Captain Action was Ideal Toys creation as a counter to Hasbro's G.I. Joe. And both toys were created by the toy designer Stan Weston, in opposition to the villainous Dr. Evil was created as an enemy who could also be formed into a variety of villains. And shortly after, a sidekick, Action Boy, came out. And later yet, they were supplemented with Lady Action. Yeah, so they even had a female figure, which I don't think I have ever seen. Okay. I want to kind of show you. In the back here, this book, I just had it a minute ago, and now I can't get it. So as you can see here, this is some of the box art. This was actually box art for an Aurora model set of Captain Action. And Captain Action in comics, and here are the ads were done in comic format. Here you can see a couple of the ads. Okay, in Captain Action in comics, DC Comics licensed the character for comic book stories, 5 issues in 1968. The series was written by then teenaged Jim Shooter. Yeah, and Jim Shooter, remember, he used to be the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics about 40 years ago. Okay, and the first issue was drawn, and you can see here, it's drawn very beautifully, by Wally Wood. And the rest of the issues were drawn by Gil Kane, who did that cover, with either Wally Wood or Dick Giordano inking it. And yeah, the rest of the issues were drawn by Gil Kane and inked by Wally Wood. And in assuming the guise of other characters was dropped, and the character was created from the ground up, keeping just a few of the basic toy elements. In 2008, Monstrous Books rebooted the character in comics with a totally different backstory, which I've never seen. And in 2012, Airship 27, one of the creators of that was Ron Fortier. They did Airship 7. They published a few pulp novels featuring Captain American characters. In here to see some more of the Wally Wood art. And in the book, finally going to get Dr. Evil. In the comic, the first 2 issues were the storyline of Captain Action acquiring his powers. He was an archaeologist working with a friend, a colleague, and they discovered some ancient coins left by some ancient gods, which had been imbued with the gods' powers. And then when they carried the coins, they had used those powers. Well, his Professor Arno, who was Captain Action, he wanted to do it for good, become a superhero, and his other fellow wanted to be evil and take over and stuff like that. And then after that, they had 2 issues introducing the character of Dr. Evil, which was also related to them. He was an alien being, which had infused itself into a relative of Captain Action and Action Boys. You can see the beautiful artwork. The Wally Wood's inking on Gil Kane's pencils are just beautiful work. They work so well together, better than so many other inkers, and I think better than Gil Kane doing his own inking on his own pencils. And then the last issue, or actually those 2 issues, were written by Gil Kane as well. And the last issue written by Gil Kane, and that was a completely different story. Now I have the first 4 issues in the original comics, but I had never seen issue 5 until here. I hadn't read that far yet, so I don't know. But it's a completely different story, and it is some really, really nice stuff, as you can see. And I always loved Captain Action. It's one of the reasons why, even when I wasn't doing as much with comics, I always kept that, because I liked the toys, I liked the commercials, and then of course I really liked the comics, largely for the artwork. And it's a really, really nice piece. And this hardback version, IDW, this is just from last year, and it's a $30 book, which is surprising because most of them are like $50 and stuff for this stuff. So that's what I've got for you this time. I hope you enjoyed that. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Do you remember Captain Action? Did you have an Captain Action figure, or one of the or later, if you're too young to have had one, pick one up as a collectible? However, whatever. Let me know what you think of this Captain Action. And remember, comics are art.